Welcome to the Going Somewhere podcast, a podcast for anyone who finds themselves in the ambiguous adventure of young adulthood, a season marked by uncertainty, change, love, heartbreak, and a whole lot of big decisions. Sit down with me for some real and raw conversations with some incredible people as we dig into what it looks like to be a follower of Jesus in this beautiful yet complicated season of life. If this podcast helps you in any way, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with friends. Be sure to join the conversation on Instagram by following goingsomewhere.podcast. We're all going somewhere. We might as well go there together. Let's dive into today's episode. Hey everybody, welcome to the Going Somewhere podcast. If you're new to the podcast, I just want to welcome you. My name is Steven. I'm the host of this podcast, and really what this podcast is all about is it's designed for young adults who find themselves in that ambiguous adventure of young adulthood where there's so many changes, there's ups and there's downs, there's new jobs and marriage and having kids, but there's also breakup, moves, losing jobs, there's moving across the country to a place that you know nobody, and those challenges are real. But this is what I've realized is that we're all going somewhere, but we don't have to go there alone. We're all going somewhere. Why don't we go there together? And so that's what the heartbeat of this podcast is. Normally, I interview somebody. I sit down with somebody. We have a conversation. We talk about the lessons that they've learned and what we can learn, and we apply it to our lives as a community. But today's going to be a little bit different. Today, we're going to be talking about one of the practices, one of the rhythms that's made the greatest impact on my life. Since 2016, this is something I've done every single year, and I believe it's one of the most important things that I do each and every year. We're going to be talking about year-end reflection. We're going to talk about the practice of just journaling through a year and going, okay, what did I learn? What did I face? What challenges did I overcome? Who are the people that have made an impact on my life? And we're going to be kind of talking about that in three buckets. We're going to look back, just taking inventory. We're going to reflect, really think about, meditate, what we learned, who we are, and all those things. And then we're going to go forward. We're going to think about, okay, but based on what I learned, based on what I've walked through, based on where I'm at today, what do I need to do to go forward? On a map, there's two pins that are the most important. We have the destination pin. This is where I'm going. This is where I'm headed. Some of us don't know where we're headed. A year-end reflection practice will help you with that. But also, some of us do. But here's the next thing. Not all of us know where we're at. And that's what I hope this practice, this rhythm will help you discover is where I'm at today. Like, what am I feeling? What have I faced? And how does that shape me? What am I thinking about? What am I dreaming about? And I want us to really take inventory of that and then move forward with confidence. And so I developed a year-end reflection guide. You can find this on my website at stevenglosser.com/freebies. It's going to be in the show notes below as well. But what this guide is really just, it's 12 journaling practices that I walk you through to help you develop this practice of year-end journaling, so that you can really do it with intentionality, do it with purpose. So this episode is actually going to build on that guide. So if you don't have that guide already, I encourage you to pause the podcast, go over, it's all free. Just go to stevenglosser.com/freebies. You can get that there, and then you can actually open it side by side as you listen to this or watch this episode, and I'll guide you through this. And I obviously know you're not going to probably do this today, but what I encourage you to do, what I challenge you to do is over the next 2 weeks, take some time to journal through your past year, to do this exercise. Take a few hours out of your schedule, put it on your calendar even, and say, this is when I'm going to go to a coffee shop. This is when I'm going to sit down and do this. And I guarantee you it's going to make an impact on your life. I guarantee you it's going to allow you to slow down and to catch themes and to catch things that maybe you would miss if you were just to keep going. Because here's the deal. You're going to hear this saying over and over again in the next couple weeks. New year, new me. And by intentions, that's true. And that's great. Many of us do enter a new year and it feels like a turning point. It feels like a change, but it's not. what oftentimes happens is we enter a new year with the same struggles. The old us comes into the new year. And so what we're going to do is develop this practice of year-end reflection that's going to help you understand who you are, where you've come from, in order to make an intentional course of where you want to go. But not only where you want to go, but where God wants you to go. Because that's the beautiful thing in this, that as followers of Jesus, we don't have to just set goals and say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is where I'm going to do it. This is when I'm going to do it. No, we can actually pray and have this be a prayerful action where we say, God, what is it that you see in me? What is it that you want to change in me? Where is it that you want to take me? What's your will for my life? And so that's how we're going to go about this today. Here's a little bit of the history for me. It was actually 2016 where Taylor and I had the opportunity to house sit for her aunt and uncle. They lived about 30 minutes out of town, and they were going to be gone. They had a cat named Booger, but that's it. And so we were just going to be at their house hanging out. We had at that point lived in a townhome, but this was just kind of an opportunity. We're going to get off the grid a little bit. We're going to be in this big house. It was going to be a really special time. And Taylor worked during some of the days. And so one of the mornings I decided to open a new journal. And in this new journal, I just started to write. I just started to write about the year prior. I started to write about how I felt. I started to write about dreams that I had. And what was supposed to be just kind of a morning of like, all right, I'm going to start my morning just journaling. That was something that wasn't new. I've got a box of journals because this has been an important practice for me for years. But I just took this one and I said, okay, I'm going to reflect on this past year for a few minutes, for a few hours, and it became the whole day. And that's not the expectation for you. But what happened was I became more aware of what God was doing. I became more aware of what His Holy Spirit had been speaking to me. I became more aware of the lessons that I was learning and the challenges that I was facing and how those things were impacting me. And so just to maybe humor you a little bit, I'm going to read the first paragraph. I'm going to read a couple things from this journal. It says, 2016 was a full year. I'm so thankful for many of the opportunities I was given and the memories I made. 2016 was a year I dedicated to live my life with authenticity. I feel as if I did that. I gave myself fully to the things I did. I did my best to keep it simple. In doing so, I realized that there were areas in my heart that continue to need God's touch. I wrote pages and pages. I also wrote this. I discovered that I really need to slow down. I've been missing some of the best moments of life because there's always somewhere to be and something to do. What sticks out to me about that one is that in 2016, I started to write about slowing down. I started to write about my desire and just my awareness that like life was moving fast, that I was busy, that our pace of life was a little out of control. Well, in 2020, when the world shut down with COVID, I really kind of declared that the year of slowing down. But what was fascinating to me was that God had already been bringing me on this journey. He had already been preparing my heart, giving me this yearning to slow down, to recognize His hand in my life, in everyday moments, and to really catch Him as often as I could. And so I love being able to look back at this, and that's what you're going to develop. You're going to develop the ability to look back on your life with intentionality. You're going to be able to develop the ability to say, okay, I've recorded some things that now I can read every year. I can read 10 years from now and say, okay, what was God speaking to me? And what I love to see is how things that I wrote then are the reality now. Dreams that I journaled about then are things that I'm doing now. At that point, one of my goals for that year was to read 15 books. Well, reading has become one of the keystone habits in my life. And this year alone, I read 37 books. And that's not to brag or anything like that. It's because I developed a desire, I set a goal, and then I grew that. It was something that was like, hey, this is great, this is fun, but it's become something that's allowed me to learn. It's allowed me to process things and look around the world and be curious about things. And that's a big part of who I am now. And so I love that I can look back on these things. So we're going to develop how to make one of these, But here's the cool thing is that you don't have to make the same mistakes that I did. You don't have to just open a journal and just start writing. Like, that's why I created the guide. That's why I created just some practices that I've worked. There's some things that I did back then that I don't do anymore. And so I want to give you some of the best things that I've done, and we're going to build on those today. So before we dive into some of the content, we're going to walk through each of the practices. First, we're going to talk about what we need for this exercise. First is a virtual or a physical journal. I'm a big physical journal guy. Like I said, I have a box of journals. I periodically will look through them. I'll read through them and just see the prayers that I was praying, the hopes and the dreams that I had, the disappointments that I was walking through. And it's a way for me to see God's faithfulness. But there's a part of just writing it and putting pen to paper that is, I don't know if it's therapeutic or if it's just a way that I've prayed for years that's really allowed me to kind of process, to take the time to slow down. I can type faster than I can write. And if you're trying to just be productive, this might not be for you. But for me, I wasn't trying to be productive. I was trying to be thoughtful. I was trying to actually slow down enough to catch the themes and to catch the trends and to allow my heart to kind of pour out onto paper. But there's also benefits to doing this virtually that you can easily access it anywhere. It can be on your phone. It can be on your computer. You can do it a little quicker. So whatever works for you, do that. The second tip for you is to find a time and place. Put it on your calendar. Set aside a few hours and maybe even set aside an hour over the course of a few days. I know some of you are parents like me and you don't just have the opportunity of like, hey, I'm going to take 6 hours or 4 hours today and just sit at a coffee shop and journal. Maybe it's getting a babysitter. Maybe it's talking about this with your spouse and saying, hey, how about on Saturday you take the morning and you just go and get a coffee shop. I'll take the kids. And then in the afternoon, I'll go do it and we'll switch. Do whatever works, but set time and place. The biggest thing is that don't be distracted. Eliminate as many distractions as you can so that you can really do these exercises and do these practices with intentionality. And so find a time, whether that's early in the morning or in the afternoon while kids are napping, whatever works for you, do it. And then find a place. If your house is distraction free, if you're not going to be tempted to watch TV, if you're not going to be tempted to hang out with your roommates for this chunk of time, go to a coffee shop. Find a place that you can kind of get off the beaten path. That was the beauty of the first time I did it, was we were out in a little country home in the middle of nowhere, near nobody, barely had any cell phone reception at all. And it was the perfect environment for me to do this without any distractions. There was nothing to watch. There was nothing to do on my phone. There was nobody to see. It was just a time to be with the Lord and reflect in this way. The third thing is to come prepared. Come prepared, one, just mentally. Sometimes it's going to take time to kind of get into this reflective place of just kind of like, all right, everything's moving fast. And now I'm going to slow down. And now I'm going to sit with my thoughts. I'm going to sit with my disappointments. I'm just actually going to get in this place. So come prepared for that. Come prepared for, there's going to be emotion with it. I mean, you're processing emotion. You're processing pain and disappointment and giving it over to God. And so there's going to be times where you are emotional. So come prepared for that. But also just practically, one of the things that I found myself doing these first few years that I did this was I would open up the photo app on my phone and I was scrolling through the year. What happened this year? Because sometimes you forget. Or I was looking at my calendar, or I was looking at my Instagram feed of just like, okay, what was I posting about this year? Because that made me realize like, oh, this was that birthday party, or this was that game that we went to, or this was that trip that my family took. And so that's the way that you can come prepared practically, is just having, your photos out, or having kind of taken some time to look through your calendar. What happened this year practically? But also if you have journals, this is a great time to bring those, to look through them. So if you had a journal this year, just look through it. What were you writing about? What prayers were you praying? What were you feeling throughout the year? It might take time, but that's the point, that you need time to do this. It takes time to reflect, but you can't afford not to do it. And so the fourth practical thing is to keep it real. Be honest. I think sometimes, even when we journal, even when we do something that is private, we have this temptation of like sugarcoating it. And so if you struggle with the sin this year, don't shy away from writing it out, because confessing that to God in this way allows some freedom to come into your life. It allows, it's like emptying yourself of that thing and giving it over to God. And sometimes that act of writing it and seeing it actually helps it sink in. It maybe causes pain that is good pain. It causes conviction that the Holy Spirit wants to change you. So don't shy away from being real and honest. Obviously, if you don't want anybody else to read this, keep it in a safe place. Put a lock on it. I remember that was the trendy thing, like in middle school, that you could buy like diaries and journals and it had locks on it so your parents couldn't read it or whatever. Do it. Whatever you need to do to give you that peace of mind to just journal it out, to write it out. I've oftentimes thought, like, what if 10 years from now, my kids find a journal that has sensitive information or that has things about a struggle or about a pain in our marriage or whatever the case is. And honestly, I've had to humble myself and realize, like, that would be a blessing. That would be a blessing for my kids to get a glimpse of dad at a point where maybe they just saw me in one light, in one way, whether it's through fun or through discipline or whatever it is that they think about me. But they realize, like, man, there's more to the story. And it's so cool to see how God has changed my dad, how he's changed their marriage, how he's brought freedom into his life, and that the person he is now is different than the person he was then. And I hope that that's something my kids see someday. I'm not afraid of that because this is who I am. And I want them, when they're ready and in that appropriate time, to understand what's made me. And I think that's a powerful tool that we can give to our kids at the right time, at the right moments, when they can handle it, when they can understand it. So don't be afraid of being real and honest. There's only benefits that come from it. Let me tell you about Rhythm Conference. Rhythm Conference is a 2-day gathering right here in Fargo, North Dakota at Northview Church that is for young adults. It is a 2-day gathering where we're going to get away from our busy life and just take some time to be with others, to build some community, but also to press into the presence of God. We've got a couple guest speakers that are going to be joining us, including Jordan Smucker from Ethos Church in Ohio. Jordan was here last year for our first ever Rhythm Conference, and he's coming back. He's going to be one of our main speakers. We're going to have breakout sessions, after parties. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I highly encourage you to get your tickets at rhythmconf.com. The conference is February 9th and 10th. It's only $35 if you buy your tickets before December 31st. Otherwise, it goes up to $50. So get your tickets while they're hot at rhythmconf.com. Back to today's episode. Let's get in. Now you're ready. We're going to dive in here. We're going to go through the 3 parts: look back, reflect, and go forward. I've got the guide right here. I'm actually going to open it to the look back section right now. It says, before moving forward, it is important to look back. It is important to see where you came from and recognize themes and patterns. Taking time to look back will help you move forward with greater clarity. The following journaling practices are designed to help you recount memories, experiences, impactful relationships, and challenges you faced along the way. Label the top of your journal with the following journaling prompts and begin. Okay, so now you're ready to go. Looking back has benefits. It allows us to just pause and kind of look in the rearview mirror. When you're driving forward, you don't look in the rearview mirror. That's how you crash. But there's turns that you make. There's lane switches that you make where you have to look over your shoulder. You have to look in that rearview mirror to see what's behind you. And that's what this practice is it's seeing what's behind you. Those things don't define you. They don't hold you captive. They don't hold you hostage. They're not shackles that are going to keep you in your past. But we have to look at our past to move forward to our future. That the things that we've experienced in the past, if we don't process them, they're going to come with us into the future. Those struggles, those challenges, those hardships, that they have their rightful place. And that's in the past. But we're going to learn from them and move forward. So here's 4 practices for looking back. The first is called urine review. Urine review is simply a practice of just saying what happened in 2023. What happened this past year? For me, this is just kind of, hey, this is where I just kind of process it all. I'm not trying to categorize things. I'm not trying to, put things in good columns and bad columns. I'm just really saying, okay, what's the first things that comes to mind when I think about this past year? When I think about from January through each month, what memories are sparked, what moments are sparked, what kind of describes and defines this year? A few prompt questions that you can ask yourself for this is, what happened this year? What changed this past year? How would I describe this year overall? And what specific words would I use to describe this past year or what I'm feeling about this past year? In my example in 2016, one of those words was authenticity. That word has become one of the most important to me because I want to be real. I want to be raw. I want the people that I meet in public to get the real me, and I want my family to get the real me. One of the things that Mark Batterson said that really resonated to me was, hey, be the hero of your home. Let the people that are closest to you get the best version of you. That so often you can, especially in ministry, which I am, there's these opportunities where I'm on stage or I'm meeting people in church on a Sunday and I'm smiling and I'm happy and I'm greeting them with an authentic love, but I'm just greeting them and I'm putting on my best self for that 2 hours. And then if I get home and I'm cranky and I'm grumpy and my kids don't want to be around me, they don't get that same me that they see on Sundays. Or one of my fears is that someday at my funeral, there's going to be people that stand up and say all these nice things, and my kids are going to go, wait, are they talking about dad? Like, are they talking about the same guy? Like, that is devastating to me. And I think that's a story for many people. And so doing this year in review exercise allows me to understand that. But that word authenticity was what I discovered that year, what I really kind of honed in on that year. So what words stick out to you? That's year in review. The second exercise is highlights. Highlights. What were the best things that happened in this past year? This is where having that Instagram account is great because you can go back and, I like to sometimes post things that aren't the sugar-coated, the best of the best moments. Like, this is the everyday, ordinary life that we live, because social media can be a comparison trap. But what I do love to do is look back at those highlights. Like, what are those peak moments that I posted about? Because I want to take time to reflect on those things, to think about the good, to think about all the great things that happened, the achievements that I made, the goals that I met, whatever the case is, the milestones in relationships. Here's some questions that you can ask. What were the best parts of this year? What are the greatest memories I have of this year? What were my greatest accomplishments? What moments and memories do I want to remember 10 years from now? These questions will help you think about the highlights from this year. I was looking at my 2016 journal, and the first highlight was Kevin. That was the year we got our dog, and we've had him for almost 8 years now, which is kind of insane. But it was so cool to look back, and let's be honest, now we have 3 young kids, and there's always food around. There's food on the edge of counters. There's food on the table, and he's constantly getting into it. And honestly, there's moments where we're like, Kevin. But looking back at this journal actually gave me appreciation and love for him, because I'm like, man, what a blessing. He was an answer to prayer. He was something that and I don't want to like over spiritualize getting a dog, but we were talking about getting a dog for a long time, and got open the door. Our friend wanted to rehome Kevin, and we were ready to take him in. We were excited to take him in. And so to see the answered prayer, the excitement makes me want to go, okay, hey, he's a blessing, and he's changed our family. He's given us so many great moments and memories. And so thinking about that highlight of that year is fun to look back on now. What are those highlights for this year? The third practice is greatest challenges. So now we're going to kind of pivot, and we're going to start to write about the things that were the most difficult this year, the challenges that we faced, the struggles that we walked through, the loss that we suffered, the pain that we encountered. And we're going to really just take time to think about what were the greatest challenges this year. What are the sin struggles that you're maybe carrying into this year? What are the sin struggles that you're still holding on to and walking through. These are some of the things that as we take them, we're not just going to leave them there. We're not just going to define them and say, well, that was the challenges. No, we're going to learn from those challenges in our next section. But what were those challenges? In order to overcome it, you have to face it. Like, in order to get past it, you have to recognize it and call it for what it is. For me in 2016, one of the things that the greatest challenges that I faced was my grandma died. And my grandma was getting older and she had a lot of health concerns, but she was like one of my best friends and I had so many memories. And so actually taking the time, that first time I ever did this, to just really think about the impact she made on my life, the pain that I felt because she was gone, the fact that I missed her, the fact that those moments that I had with her, I'll never get those again. Like, I needed to create the space to write about that, to think about that, and to allow God to heal in that. But we have to reflect. We have to pause. We have to look back and recognize those. So what are some of those challenges from this year? What were some challenges that you faced, whether in work, with your family, in relationships, in health, in your finances? What setbacks did you encounter? What are some of the sin struggles that commonly tripped you up this year? Think about those things. Write those out. Take that time to do that. And then the next practice is our people of the year. Our people of the year. This is one of my favorites because I think sometimes we can think about the things we did, the places we went, the moments and the memories that we have, but we don't always think about the relationships that define us. We really are a compilation of the 3 to 5 people that we're closest to, that those people have a great impact on our life. And at times that's a negative thing. And that might be part of this exercise, that you actually think of the not so top 10 people of your life. And you think about, okay, who's had a negative impact on my life? What relationships do I need to change, walk away from, alter in some way in order for me to be healthy and grow in the new year? But there's other relationships that you're going to highlight and you're going to say, hey, this is one that I want to cling to. This is a person I want to spend more time with. They've made an impact on my life and I want to spend more time with them. And so take the time, 3 to 5 people that made an impact on your life. Maybe it's somebody that surprises you. Maybe it's somebody that came into your life this year, a new friend that came out of nowhere. Take time to write about that. Think about the people closest to you, but then work out. I know for me, one of the people, even just this year, was my friend Noah. I didn't really know Noah last year, but Noah came into my life. He actually does my finances. We do some finance stuff together, but he's been a friend in this season of life. We have a lot of shared interests. He just had his first baby. We've just been able to kind of help them journey with that. And he's somebody that's made a big impact on my life. He might not be the first person that comes to mind, but when you take the time to reflect, you think about, man, there's a lot of gifts that God has given me in the form of people this year. So who made the biggest impact on your life this year? Who comes to mind, or who came into your life that made a difference? Who are you grateful for? What people made you better this year? So now we're going to move to the reflect section. So now we've looked back and now we're going to reflect. This is creating space to look back, allows you to momentarily escape the cycle of continuous activity long enough to recognize where you come from and recognize themes from this past year. The next step is to pause in order to give God praise, surrender challenges, embrace lessons, and set a new course. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to talk about 4 practices that I do each year that help me to reflect on the year. So one is a gratitude list. So we've talked about the highlights. We've talked about year in review. We've talked about people of the year. Now I just take a journal and I make I try to do 50, and this might be a stretch for you, but that's the point. It's to go beyond. I'm thankful for my house. I'm thankful for God. I'm thankful for my family, those Thanksgiving, like go-tos. But this is where we kind of dig in and we say, okay, I'm going to write 50, 1 through 50. Now I'm just going to write things that come to mind that I'm thankful for. I'm going to write things that I'm grateful for this year. I'm going to make a list and let it get specific. Don't let it just be the big things. Kind of hone in on those small things. What are you grateful for? What are the surprising blessings of your life? In what ways have negative moments created gratitude? In what ways have pain points caused gratitude? It might have been perspective. It might be a new person that came into your life because of the pain in the past. I remember being in college and going through, or actually after college, going through a really hard breakup. And it was a difficult season of life. But 2 years later, when I was reflecting and thinking about the different struggles, the different things that I had walked through, I was married to Taylor. And of course, that was painful in the moment, but it opened the door for a new blessing in my life. So those pain points can be blessings that you can be grateful for. So what are you grateful for? The next practice is life lessons. What did you learn? So think about those challenges. Think about the mistakes. What did you learn from those things? And so write out those lessons. One tip that I have for you is to write it out as if you're teaching a curriculum based on your life to somebody else. What are the lessons that you want to pass on to that person? I love this exercise because it actually helps me like hone in on those mistakes or hone in on those challenges and say, because this happened, I learned blank. Because I walked through this relational hardship or this friendship fell apart, I learned that I need to stay in touch with people that move far away. Whatever the case is, learn those lessons. So a few questions you can ask. What can I learn from the challenges I faced this year? What can I learn from mistakes I made this year? What did God teach me through his word? And what books did I read? And what were the takeaways from those books? If you are a book reader, this is a great opportunity to just pause, pull out the stack of books, look at your Audible and say, okay, what's one thing I learned from each of these books? And write those down. Those are lessons that you can learn that you can bring with you into the new year. The third reflection practice is check the scoreboard. This one, I'm not going to take a ton of time to dive into because this could be a whole nother podcast. This could be a whole nother lesson in itself. But one of the things that I started to do is I started to take the different areas of my life, my family, my marriage, my parenting when I became a parent, my work, my hobbies, my health, my finance, all those areas of my life. And I started to give myself a grade. I was an athlete in high school. I almost said I am an athlete, but that's questionable. So a scoreboard, that metaphor, that idea of a scoreboard that I can see where am I at is helpful. And so in reflection, I started to give myself grades. Okay, I'm going to give myself a B in marriage. I'm going to give myself a B in parenting. I'm going to give myself a D in hobbies. I just didn't create the time for those things. And you can write a little bit about why you gave yourself that grade. And that will help you understand where you are today. So that check or that scoreboard is important. So how am I doing in different areas of my life? And then a follow-up question is, why do I think I did poorly in some areas and good in other areas? What would it look like to be healthy and whole and moving forward in each and every area of your life? And the fourth practice is a simple one. It's a prayer of thanksgiving. Just take time, whether it's written or just verbal, just to praise God and thank him for the year that you just walked through. So thank him for 2023. Just write out, God, I thank you for the good things, the great moments, and the challenges. I thank you for what you've done in my life. I thank you for how you've changed me, how you've molded me, how you've shaped me, and that you have good plans for me in the future. Pray that prayer. Pray a prayer similar to that, and carry that with you into the next part of this exercise. The next part is go forward. So we looked back, we reflected, and now it's time to go forward. Now that you have looked back and reflected on the year, it's time to set the course for a new year. A key benefit of year-end reflection is gaining needed perspective in order to go forward with greater purpose and intentionality. Learning from and processing past gives you clarity moving into the future. And so here's the exercises or the practices for this section. One is word of the year. So as we look forward to 2024, one thing that I've done for the last actually probably 10 years is I've picked one word for the year upcoming. And of course, other things happen, other words kind of rise to the surface. But as I look forward, as I take in what I just journaled about, and I look forward to the new year, what's one word that comes to mind? And so it might be, or a phrase, it could be slow down. It could be intentionality. It could be family. Whatever that word is, write that down and write why that word matters. And if you need to make a list of words to kind of kick it off, do that. And then just kind of cross them off, rank them. I love to rank things. So that's a 4. I'm going to give that word a 4. It means something, but it's not all the way there. So write those words. Here's a couple things that you can kind of jumpstart that. What is one word that will encompass who you hope to be this year? What is one word that will encompass what you hope to achieve this year? And then fill in the blank. 2024 will be a year of blank. 2024 will be a year of blank. What is the first thought that came to your mind? Is it hope? Is it restoration? Is it healing? Whatever that word is, write it out and write about it. The next practice in this section is dreams, goals, and habits. This one is pretty self-explanatory, but what are you dreaming about for this next year? What goals are you going to set? What habits are you hoping to form? What habits are you hoping to break? As you reflected, you might have caught some themes of habits that maybe it's the way that you watch Netflix late at night, or you lay in bed and scroll on your phone, or a sin struggle that you have. And okay, we're going to set new intentions. We're going to set new goals for this new year. So dreams, what are you dreaming about? For me, there's a lot of dreams this year that as I'm processing, as I'm praying and I'm reflecting, this is a year that I'm excited about. I'm hoping to release my first book this year. I'm hoping to record more episodes of the podcast this year. I'm hoping to develop more resources, but there's also things at church and at work that I'm so excited about, of launching new life groups and training new leaders and helping new people come to a deeper relationship with Jesus. So what are the dreams, the goals, and the habits for this new year? The next one is envision future. So we did our scoreboard exercise. Now what I want you to do is actually take that scoreboard, take those categories, and then write from the perspective of you plus 1. So you, at the end of the year next year, I want you to write what that ideal year would look like. Hey, in 2024, I was a present husband, that I gave my best attention to my wife. I greeted her first when I came home, even though the kids were clamoring for my attention. I wanted my kids to see that my wife is the most important person on this planet. Write out that. Write out what it looks like to have lived a healthy, whole, happy year in those areas of your life with God's help. So write that out, envisioned future. Write it from that perspective. Don't write it, I hope to do this. Right? This is who I am. This is what it looks like when I set the intentions, I prayerfully move forward, and I ask God to help me. So write the envisioned future, and then finally, pray for a new year. Pray over the year. I call it it'll be my 2024 prayer. God, in 2024, I pray that blank. I pray that this relationship's restored. I pray that this dream comes to fruition. I pray that you make an impact in and through me. Whatever it is, just write out those prayers, journal those prayers, and give those to God. I hope this was helpful. Again, if you don't have this reflection guide, I encourage you to download it, print it, use it on your iPad, whatever you need to do. But it's at stevenglosser.com/freebies, and you can go through that. It's a checklist that as you go through those exercises, you can check it off. I encourage you to do it. I would love to hear about how it goes for you. You can maybe comment on the podcast, or you can send me an email at hello@stevenglosser.com. I would love to hear your thoughts. What practices worked? What were the challenges? What questions did you have in hindsight? I encourage you to just take that time to do those exercises, but I would love to hear how it goes for you. How did it impact you? How did it make a difference in your life? So you can find me on Instagram at Steven Glosser, or obviously the podcast, goingsomewhere.podcast. We are so grateful for you. I hope that you have the best year, and I hope this exercise is helpful for you. I hope that taking this time and carving out this time and making this space will really help you grow and really help you recognize who God's called you to be, who God's made you, and help you take the next steps that you need to take in order to walk in all that God has for you this year. So I hope this is helpful to you. If you don't already subscribe to the podcast, make sure you subscribe, follow us on Instagram. Also on Spotify or wherever you listen to this, on YouTube, whatever you do to get this content, make sure you follow us there. And I encourage you to share it with a friend, especially if this episode was helpful. Share this episode with somebody. Put it on your Instagram, send it in a text message. The more people that hear it, hopefully the more people that are impacted by it that will have this experience of really reflecting, looking back, and moving forward with greater confidence and greater hope. But hey, we love you. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Going Somewhere podcast. We'll see you again real soon.